Welcome back to another episode of Excuse My Grandma. It's Kim and my co-host,
Grandma Gail.
Okay, well, this week, Grandma Gail and I, you can tell, are in a studio, an actual studio in New York City, not on our couch like we normally are.
Exactly, without you touching the cameras.
Yes, because we're here to interview a guest, Chelsea Vaughn. Who,
beautiful.
Yes.
Beyond beautiful.
Yes. It's better than staring at each other all the time. We haven't had a guest in a while, actually. But for those who don't know Chelsea or who do, she's a previous contestant of The Bachelor, the 2020 season with Matt James, and she's a model. She has her own podcast called Vaughnerable, where she talks about dating, friendship, pop culture, and more. Chelsea, welcome to Excuse My Grandma.
Thank you. So happy to be here with you guys.
So happy to have you. It's a relief. We don't have to look at each other for a change.
So let's start with your age, relationship status, and where you're from and currently living.
I'm 30. I'm single, and I live in New York. I live in Brooklyn, in Bushwick, to be specific. Oh, sorry. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia.
Amazing. I want to ask also questions like, I actually have been to Atlanta once. Do you feel like the dating scene was a lot different there versus New York?
I actually was like such a late bloomer with dating. I didn't start dating until like end of college.
Okay.
And I got in a serious relationship for 5 years, and then I moved to New York with him. So I never really dated in Atlanta.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where did you go to university?
University of Georgia.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
And we met during New York Fashion Week.
Mm-hmm.
How was your experience in Fashion Week as like a model and being kind of in that industry?
I love Fashion Week. That's like something that's always going to have a special place in my heart, I think, because when I was younger in Atlanta and like I got my degree in fashion, my goal and dream was always like move to New York and be a runway model. Like I just always wanted to do that. So I love runway. I love like the rush of like being backstage and like doing the walk and doing all that. So it's interesting now that I'm an influencer being kind of on the other side, like sitting in the audience. It's still fun. Like I still enjoy it and I love the show and the creativity and all that. But I kind of miss the runway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you were to give advice to people about like being in fashion and in the industry, do you think it's, I don't know if easier is the right word, but I guess is it an easier path to be an influencer and get there or to be a model and get there?
Ooh. I mean, I almost feel like I can't speak on the path I took to get to an influencer because most people aren't going to go on a TV show.
Right, yeah.
And I don't want to discredit the people that are influencers from like building a following from the ground up because I think that's a really hard thing to do. But modeling's really not easy.
No.
So I wouldn't say modeling's easier. I can't. Yeah, I think modeling's pretty hard, and I think you have to have a really thick skin, and it's just a very unique industry.
It's interesting. I saw, Kim, I'm just going to interject here. I saw something today that warmed my heart, actually. It was a woman, now I don't remember her name, so what good is this story? It's prom time across America. And they're, unfortunately, body types are very difficult when young girls have to go to proms. Not everybody is a size 2, 4, 6, 8. So there is a woman who, and I don't think she's from Atlanta, but she's in the South somewhere. Now I have to start looking on the what I saw this morning on the. I'll have to look that up. She has a store that is strictly for teenage girls who are plus sizes, and they come for 6 hours. They drive to this one location.
She should do delivery.
Well, what she's doing now, I mean, it's wonderful. She's fabulous. She was on, I actually saw her on the Today Show this morning.
Okay.
She's giving dresses away to some of the children who can't really afford, the dress is $100, $125, and that's a lot. And she's giving many of them away to young girls, and the body image that they have putting on this glamorous dress, it's fabulous. I mean, and I was thinking, models have it so, no matter what size you are, plus size, small size, it's such a hard thing today for women, especially. I mean, men have big and tall stores, I guess, too.
Yeah.
But for women and for young girls today, don't you think, I mean, modeling is really something that it can be beautiful, but it all can be very frustrating, too, because body types are so different.
And to have that hyper focus.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem. You are the most gorgeous thing I've ever seen, and you're tall. We're short. Thank heavens we're not. We're sort of small bones, so we can still fit into regular sizes. But so many people can't, and there's such a need out there.
Yeah.
For this. And I think a lot of the models are now projecting, like the big models are coming out and saying big is beautiful, and which, all these things are so important, I think, for psyche of young people today. I'm very much, against the stereotypes where we used to look in magazines and see everybody looking like Twiggy, because nobody really looked like Twiggy except for Twiggy. And so I think what a lot of models such as yourself are coming out and saying, everything is beautiful. And this woman today, I was so inspired this morning. I was thinking to myself, I'd like to open a store like this and almost have her come to New York. Believe me, there are so many locations that need this kind of stuff. So it's hard to be a model.
Yeah, that part of modeling definitely is tough, just because you're being scrutinized based on your body, and everyone has different bodies, and everyone's is really beautiful. But I just happen to look like this, Like
you were born like this. We know.
I just happen to be born tall and skinny,
Right.
And me in this body is still not technically good enough for what they want a straight size model to be. I'm still, my hips are still technically too big, and my waist is still an inch too big.
So they still have those rules.
Yeah, even when you're born technically the model that's supposed to be, you're still not. Everyone's still trying to fit into this standard that's unrealistic.
Yeah.
I do think it's changed for the better. It's not as bad as it used to be.
Right.
And there are a lot more plus size model opportunities and curve models and mid size models. But they still have a long way to go for sure.
Well, I certainly think from the personalities you see on television, everybody is heavy. So I sort of like that.
I don't know. I think.
I'm telling you, if you look at commercials on television now, you don't see any thin people anymore.
Well, but that's like going the opposite direction, because you don't want someone who's really thin to then look at commercials and be like, well, I'm not being represented. Or
that's
like
true.
there are a lot of
I've
tall
never thought
girls.
of
Like
that.
I have friends who are really tall that are insecure when it comes to dating and stuff, because a lot of guys are shorter than them and they feel their egos are less than in those situations.
Yeah.
So have you run into that with dating?
Definitely. I think guys are insecure about the height thing. There's always the joke about if a guy says he's 6 foot on Hinge, he's definitely 5'10".
Yeah.
And I actually am 6 feet tall. I'm 5'11" and a half. So I think, I guess I wouldn't know if that scares guys off on dating app profiles, because you have to put your height.
Yeah.
And I would prefer someone taller. That's just a preference. I would date someone probably 5'10". Would maybe be the lowest, because I do like to wear heels.
Right.
And I do like to feel confident in my height. And I think it's really the guys that are insecure that I have a problem with. If you're not insecure about it and you're 5'11" and I'm 6 feet and I wear heels sometimes and I don't, and we're both good, then we're good. But if you're you're too tall, I'm intimidated. A lot of guys do feel like that and would never date me because of my height.
Yeah.
Well, those guys can go date Kimberly. Yeah. The ones that were insecure with you, because Kimberly's very little. Yeah. So she's perfect. See, I always told you, good things come in small packages. You don't have to worry.
Do you ever think about with future wedding photos, let's say in heels, you're taller than whatever guy you're going to end up with? Do you care that you're going to look taller in the photos, or are you going to not wear heels?
I actually have thought about this because I've done bridal modeling, and the wedding dresses, they look so long on everybody else, your size.
Yeah.
And on me, when I put on heels, they're usually too short.
That's so funny.
And so I'm probably, just for comfort purposes, probably won't wear heels at the wedding, just because I want to be comfy.
Yeah.
But not because of the height thing. I wouldn't really care. Maybe my future husband can stand on a step behind me.
Right.
If it's really
Let him stand on a step stool. It's fine. He'll look good.
Okay, let's talk Bachelor. I'm going to open this up for debate. Don't let Grandma Gail make you feel comfortable, but she is going to say her true thoughts about the series and the franchise, because I know we disagree on this a lot. I'm a huge fan.
Well, you're obsessed. Don't say you use fan. You're you wrote your college thesis on it. Not too many people do that.
Yeah.
At an Ivy League college.
Do you want to say your opinion before we get
No, you can talk. Okay. I'll just put my opinion in there somewhere.
Okay. Well, let's start with how and why you applied to be on the show.
I was single. It was COVID. So this was June 2020. And I was bored. I wasn't doing anything else. Modeling industry was shut down. I also moved back home to Atlanta. Or I didn't move, but I was at home for weeks with my mom. And I just looked at the application. And also, it was the first Black Bachelor, Matt James.
Yes.
And we knew that it was him. So a lot of times when people sign up, they don't know who the Bachelor actually is. But I already knew. So I only signed up because I was like, oh, like, he seems like a good match for me. He's tall.
Right.
He lives in New York. He's an athlete. And I signed up. Yeah.
And speaking of that, like, how do you think the show has done since having the first Black Bachelor with representation?
Ooh. I don't know if it's necessarily related, but I think the show's going downhill. And I don't know if that's related to it being a cable television show, it being outdated. Like, I think people are more interested in seeing shows on streaming services.
Yeah.
And shows that are more realistic, like Love is Blind. That's not realistic, but like
Love Island, maybe?
Love Island, or like, I think that's why people like Bachelor in Paradise so much better, because there's more of an even mix of men and women. So it's definitely more realistic to find someone that way than one guy, 30 girls.
Do you know how Paradise works?
I don't know. Well, the last time I watched anything to do with Bachelor, all the girls were in mud. Running around the mud, and the guy was supposed to pick the girl that was in the mud. See, this to me is the worst thing that I've ever seen for women in my life on television. So
But
I
you
can
know it gets
understand.
swapped, though. Like,
Well,
when
I hope they take a bath and a shower,
No,
and then
so
they can see how they look.
I'm saying though,
afterwards.
when, like, that's a season of The Bachelor, but on The Bachelorette, it's a bunch of guys.
I think it's disgusting either way.
Okay.
I don't think 10 men should have to vie for one woman, and I don't think one woman should have to vie for 12 guys. And they're crying, and then they have a nervous breakdown. They can't live without him. They've known him for 2 days. I mean, the whole thing, it's a fantasy. Let's face it. It's a fantasy. In many cases, maybe it'll work for the individuals on the show. But my feeling is on it, and you know this is my feeling, that it's a little degrading, especially for women who have done so much to come up in society as equals, to start having 9 and 10 women crying if the guy doesn't give her a rose. They're all such gorgeous women. All of them. I mean, there's not one ugly lady on those shows, nor are there any ugly men on the shows. So when they had 10 bachelors and the girl had to pick that was pathetic too, because any woman would take any of those men. I think somehow, just what you were saying, that the show is becoming less popular, is because people understand it's ridiculous. So, versions of it are still fun, and I can as entertainment, but I don't think people should take it literally at all, because
But that's why, and this is actually what my thesis was about,
Okay.
like, I think you have to have more credit for the viewer. I don't think anyone's watching it being like, this is what dating is, and like, this is all I know about how relationships work. I think you watch it and you think, this girl is doing something where she made a mistake. Now I know what not to do in love. And it's like a form of emotional learning. But
I actually agree with both of you.
Okay.
I agree with Grandma Gail. I do think in some ways it is kind of a huge step back for women. The way that it's presented, I think it's a bit misogynistic. The choices that are made in editing definitely are. From having lived it and having to watch what it is aired as, it's very different. And because my season of Women was like 30 spectacular, stunning, smart women that all like went to amazing schools and are doing crazy, amazing careers and just like incredible people, what it turns into doesn't necessarily present that.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't think the viewers are as smart as you think they are.
I don't either.
I think a lot of people watch it and take it literally, too literally. I think there's just a large portion of the population that I didn't consider, that I was like smacked in the face with when I got off the show, because it's like, wow, some people really watch this and think it's real.
Yeah.
Like real, like.
Well, it is real.
It's, yes, it's real.
Yeah.
It's
just
real in a bubble. It's not real in reality.
And it's also really chopped up and.
Yeah, right. So in
yeah.
your experience, can you give an example of something that like came off differently in editing in your story that wasn't true to life?
It's tough.
If you feel comfortable.
Yeah. I
don't
am like technically not allowed to like
Oh, okay.
go there. But let me try to think of something like.
What season was the one that I saw with the wrestling?
It's every season.
Actually,
in
yeah.
the mud.
Yeah.
In the mud.
I think you're thinking of, I think it was Pilot Peter's season.
Maybe.
I feel like they made them do some sort of mud wrestling or like pillow fighting in a ring or something.
There was a pillow fight. There's always something.
Who thinks it? Now I'm just curious. Is this
Producer.
the producer thinks of this?
There's a
And
team.
it's the same guy on all the Bachelors, the same producer, or they change these season to season?
There's a lot of people that stay and have
Right.
been there since the beginning,
Right.
but there's a lot of people that come in and out. But there is a whole team of people that come up with the dates.
Okay.
And there was a boxing date on my season that I was fed up about. Like, we were all pissed because I was like, this is incredibly misogynistic. I'm not going to sit here and physically fight over a man.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. I
It's
was
not
like,
even that. Like when I watch, I get worried because I feel like a lot of people put themselves in the shoes of who they're watching. So like I'm always like, if I were on this show, I would have to get a doctor's note that I can't do any of the physical activities. There's no way I'm doing anything physical.
no.
Well, then you can't go on. That's it. Your career is over. You better
Yeah.
just go in a different direction.
Right.
Yeah, there are a lot of physical dates. and
I
was-
don't think I could deal with my friends asking, "Oh, is that your granddaughter on The Bachelor?" I go to a lot of different functions. I don't want that to come up.
What did your family think of you on the show?
They were pretty supportive. I mean, I've been in, I guess, the entertainment industry
Right.
this whole time, and I moved to New York, and I'm the one kid that like moved away and did all these crazy things. So it wasn't necessarily shocking to them, I don't think. And I also am proud of how I handled myself on the show.
Yes.
I wasn't, no offense, but like I wasn't the crying girl. I wasn't the one saying I was in love after 2 days. Like I'm a very realistic person. And so I didn't really come off any type of way that would be embarrassing.
Yeah. Did you learn anything about yourself on the show?
For sure. I think I was kind of, like I said to you before on my podcast.
Yeah.
I am not one to talk about my feelings too much or be super vulnerable or cry in front of people and all that kind of thing. And it's like when you're in that environment, you don't really have a choice but to be open and vulnerable about how you're feeling. So I think it pushed me in that way, which was good. Like I think I needed that push.
And then with the aftermath of the show, I know from watching, like you went on for the right reasons to find a guy, like you thought you would connect with Matt. Obviously, there are like it did help your career, right? So what do you say to people who are like, oh, now they have a whole platform and now they have a social media following and that kind of aftermath?
I think people always assume that people always assume that we go on the show for the following.
Yeah.
Right.
For the fame and for the social media part. But I think it's just a product of the show that I'm very grateful for, and I'm not ever going to deny that. Like, and obviously I've seen the show before. I've seen what happens after the show. I thought maybe I might get a few followers from it, but you go into the show you can go into the show for the right reasons, and you can also still happen to gain a following. Like, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think it kind of was just like, I did go for the right reasons, and what happened. I could have gone home night one and had no followers.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like, you just don't know.
Yeah. And Bachelor fame is very specific, I think, because they have that Bachelor Nation of fans who are super involved. And I know we talked about this when we had Nick Vial on our podcast and Ben Higgins.
Well, Ben is my favorite. He was
Yeah,
one
she's
of my
obsessed with
all-time.
Ben.
He was
But
a wonderful
because he does great things with his platform and
Right.
also went through a lot of like negative personal experiences after. What was your experience with that? Like, do you feel like it's equal hate to love, or?
I think when you are the lead, like Ben and
Yeah.
Nick, it's a whole different ballgame.
Okay.
Because they have to hear it from every side. Everyone has an opinion. Half the people like them, half the people hate them, whatever.
Right.
For me, just being a contestant, I think it wasn't, because like I said, I don't think I did anything crazy.
Right.
So there wasn't a lot of hate towards me. It was like people either liked me, found me, and followed me, or they just didn't bother. Like,
Right.
They just don't think about me, and it didn't come up.
Okay.
There was only like 1, maybe 2 weeks that I got like a bunch of hate for like something I said on the Women Tell All. So that was tough. But it was kind of just like okay, I'm going to step away from social media for a minute and not check my messages and move on. But I know like there are some other people from my season that got horrible death threats and had struggled with their mental health. And even though I didn't have necessarily negative feedback a lot, I did still struggle with mental health when I got back, just because it's so...
It's interesting and that's what these gentlemen also said, because you're in that bubble, and then when you leave it, you hear what's all the chatter around you, and it's very disturbing. Listen, I got disturbed because they attacked my brisket that I left out a special
We
one
did
of the
a
secret
video,
ingredients.
around-
Can you imagine getting a negative thing? Kimberly was being cute. She was teasing. We left out an ingredient in the recipe. First of all, it's on TikTok.
Well, no. First of all, I wasn't even saying
Who
here's our
cares?
recipe. I was just doing a video like making brisket with my grandma for Passover, and people were like, you're gatekeeping the recipe. How dare? And it wasn't like one hater. It was like a lot. A lot.
And it's not like I'm on the cooking channel.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a chef. This is in my own house.
Yeah.
So I left out I think I left out
Don't
the red.
say.
Oh.
Now I'm proving a point.
right.
Now I'm proving a point. They don't need to know every
All
ingredient.
right, okay, all right.
I also want to talk about.
This is living with Kimberly and Gail. This is truly living with Kimberly and
I
Gail.
love it.
Yeah. Who do you still talk to from your season, either Matt's season or Paradise?
So a lot of my girls from my season moved to New York right after we finished filming, which was so nice because we had like a little girl group here. So Abigail was here, Piper, Serena, other Serena. Who am I forgetting?
That's
Maggie.
more friends than
Either of us have combined. Well, not you.
no
You have a lot of
friends.
friends. I have
Yeah, so
We
the
have
ones
no
that are
friends.
still in New York, I talk to the most, like Kit,
Yeah.
Piper, and then Abigail and I are close.
And what are they doing? I mean, you've clearly carved out a place for yourself. Are they equally as successful, or have most of them just moved on and gone into traditional careers?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. I would say maybe like 5 to 10 girls from my season are influencers.
Yeah.
Okay.
But all of those pretty much, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
they were all there longer than I was.
Okay.
But Kit was an influencer before she went on the show, and she's like a New York City girl.
Yeah, we
and
met Kit at an event.
She's Cynthia Rowley's daughter.
Okay.
And then Piper works in marketing full time. Serena's an influencer. Other Serena is a flight attendant. So kind of a mix.
All right, so
Yeah.
it's a mix.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's fair.
And you're going on Bachelor in Paradise Canada, or I guess you already did go.
Yes.
What day does it air?
May 8th.
May 8th, so super soon. What was that experience like overall, and like
Where in Canada? Where in Canada did it take place?
It's outside of Toronto, like at
Okay.
a lake town.
Okay.
Beautiful.
And
It was
without,
really beautiful.
without
Weren't
giving
we
too much
asked to
away,
go-
like what can people look forward to?
Weren't
What-
we asked to go someplace in Canada this summer? Are we going to Montreal or something?
Yeah, I don't know if I finished that conversation.
All right. Oh,
Yeah.
well, all right.
I don't
That's a secret I'm letting
No,
out.
it's not a
We are
secret. I just
going.
don't know if I don't know if we're doing that.
All right,
Yeah.
so we won't go there.
Okay, maybe. Yeah, what can people look forward to for the Canada Bachelor in Paradise?
I think because it's a different production team and they are all Canadians, it's just a different vibe for the show.
They're very nice, the
They're
Canadians.
Yeah.
so nice.
They are so
And
nice. I know Canadians. They're just so nice.
Who do you know from Canada?
Lots. We used to go to Toronto all the time.
You
We had
did?
friends, yeah.
Oh, okay.
They're not like anybody else. Oh, they're almost like they are British subjects. But, everything is always so wonderful. You wonder if they're smoking pot
pills.
or something, or eating gummies all day
Yeah.
long. Oh, it's so lovely. Everything
Yeah.
is wonderful. No stress.
And it's not coming from a place of like, I feel like I'm supposed to be nice, so I'm nice. Like, it is genuine.
Genuinely nice. No, they're genuinely
Wow,
nice.
what's that like?
I mean, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
I had a really good experience overall. Not saying I didn't on the first 2 shows, but it was just different and it was just lovely. And I'm just really excited for everyone to see it.
Me too.
Yeah,
Now I
we
have a
can't
new
wait.
show to binge.
Well, unfortunately it's only airing in Canada, so
What?
I know. I'm trying to figure
That's
out
ridiculous.
how everyone can watch it.
Well, you'll
Oh,
have to
no.
tape it.
Oh, I know
And
how.
then send it out to all
Why
of
don't
us.
they download like a VPN on their computer? And watch?
Yeah.
There
That's how
has
I
to be a
watch-
way.
Yeah.
There has to be a way.
But still,
Come
that's
on.
not super
We're all
convenient.
invested
Yeah.
now. We want to see it.
I know.
I know. I wish that City TV would just kind of open up the thing online to
Yeah.
the US. I think that would be smart. I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't want more people to see it.
Yeah, it must be something legal or whatever,
Maybe.
but you'll figure out a way.
Yeah.
That's so exciting. And how has your dating life changed since going on the show? Like, was it hard in the right after to have, well, first of all, for a while, you can't even go out in public, right? Or you can't be on apps.
Yeah, so you can't be until your episode where you get eliminated comes on because you can't spoil the show.
Okay.
So I was on there for a while. It was like 6 episodes. So I had to wait until that episode aired to kind of like even go back on the apps if I wanted to. But then I didn't want to because I was like, everyone recognized me. And so it was just awkward. Like, you would think guys wouldn't know as much because they don't watch
Yeah.
The Bachelor as much.
Right.
No. Somebody told somebody who watched it with their fiance, who watched it with, and every guy that I went out with knew. And it was just uncomfortable because it almost feels like they have a leg up. Like it's like you Googled me and you know all of these personal details about me, and I don't know anything about you. So it was weird for a while, but I think it's gotten better since then.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then now with Vaughnerable, your podcast, how has that allowed you to connect more with your fans that you may have had from The Bachelor or from social media?
Yeah, I think that's one of the main reasons that I wanted to make it, just because I feel like I was presented in a very specific way where I was kind of put in a box. Like, it's like, okay, you're the model girl from New York, and like that's pretty much everything everyone knew about me. And I really wanted a space where I could actually, I feel like, talk about things that matter to me and kind of just talk at all. Like, they didn't get to know me very well. So I wanted to connect on a deeper level with the people that follow me. Yeah.
And what about now going to a whole different level?
Sure.
Which is a question I want to ask.
Okay.
What's your favorite restaurants in Brooklyn?
Ooh.
Anything really new and delicious that we have to go to? Because we're having a birthday weekend and we're looking for places to go this weekend.
Have you been to Bushwick?
Well,
I actually haven't.
Never.
And I love
I
Greenpoint
have.
and Williamsburg and stuff, but I've never done the Bushwick.
I went to, so this is like very hard to get into, but maybe you know people.
Kimberly will know somebody.
In Williamsburg, Misi.
Yeah,
You heard
of
of
course.
Misi?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I went to Misi for the first
Oh,
time.
give us some more esoteric.
my
than that.
God,
We don't
okay.
want to go to ones that we already went to.
Well, I didn't know. It's really hard to get into.
Misi, Lilia, same owner, right?
I love Italian.
Yeah, so do we.
I'm thinking of Brooklyn. I usually only go to Williamsburg, or like right around my house.
Oh,
What about in Bushwick?
In Bushwick, there's so much Mexican. Do you like Mexican?
Yeah.
And then,
okay?
I mean, Roberta's is like famous.
I don't think I've been there.
Okay, Roberta's is like
So then maybe we have to try that.
Yeah,
we,
Roberta's-
we actually like Mexican, but we have some good
Oh,
ones in
Roberta's.
our own
I went back to
neighborhood.
Italian. Sorry.
Yeah.
Roberta's is Italian. And this
Oh,
is like
okay.
the most known place in Bushwick.
Okay.
Roberta's.
Roberta.
Okay, good
All
to
right,
know.
that's a
trip.
spot.
Yeah.
That's a trip.
That's a day trip.
Okay.
It's so funny with Brooklyn, like, and I love Brooklyn, by the way. This isn't shitting on it at all. I feel like when I go, I'm like, oh, I'm going for lunch, so I might as well spend the day. Like, I feel like it's doing like a day trip. Like, I'm like,
Like taking a trip to Europe.
No, literally, that's how I
Over the bridge.
That's how I treat it. Like, it takes probably quicker to get to Brooklyn from my apartment than it does to go like uptown. But I treat it as like I might as well stay like the whole day and have dinner. Like, where should I find a hotel to sleep overnight? Like, it becomes a whole thing.
It is like
Yeah.
me and my roommate used to joke about how if we were dating someone living in Bushwick that lived like Upper East or Harlem, like it was a long distance relationship.
is.
It is, but it is.
And also deciding like I feel like the guy should come to you, but sometimes they're lazy and it costs a lot of money to go unless you're taking
Especially an Uber.
if you're taking an Uber or something. So that
You can meet in Chelsea or
yeah.
something.
Oh my
West
gosh!
Village.
All I know is, for my 80th birthday, we went to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So everything was perfect. And we had traffic getting over that Brooklyn Bridge to get to where we had to go.
Yeah.
Remember? But it was the most beautiful rooftop restaurant where we went, and we loved it. I loved it. It was like looking at the city from the other side, which is also one of the prettiest for people who don't
The best
know.
view of Manhattan is
It's
from Brooklyn.
That's what I was going to
Wait,
say.
where was the rooftop? What was it?
Dumbo House.
Oh my god, I went there last week.
Yeah, it's so
pretty.
It was so great. Oh,
Yeah.
it was one of my favorite
Yeah.
nights. And then
It was so funny because I think it must have been a weekend night, or maybe it wasn't. But you were like, "Is this how people go out now?" Because it was so busy.
it was so packed.
Yeah.
And in the Upper East Side, you see 3 people in a restaurant. Everyone's going, "Yay! He's
Yeah.
doing so well this week."
Right.
Yeah, Brooklyn is popping.
Yeah. Okay, I want to end the episode with a game we play with all of our guests, Grandma Gail's old-fashioned dating quiz.
Ooh, okay.
So we're going to go through some hypotheticals, and then we'll deem whether you're more of an old-fashioned dater like her or more of a modern dater like me.
Okay.
Okay. First one is, would you rather receive a call or a text from the person you're dating if it's just to say hi?
A text.
Okay. So that's 1 point for me. Would you sleep with someone on the first date?
No.
Okay.
1 point for Grandma.
1 point for Grandma. Grandma's not sleeping at all.
Dating apps or setups?
Ooh. I would love a setup.
Okay. Would you move in together before getting engaged or wait until you're engaged to move in?
I would move in before.
Oh, that's me. Okay.
I'm keeping a tally.
Okay. And who should pay for the date? Should it be one person in a relationship, or should you like split, alternate?
The first date or through the whole relationship?
I think like in the beginning.
In the beginning, I want the guy to pay.
Okay. I think 3 against 2, so you
Yep.
win.
I win.
I'm old-fashioned.
You're more old-fashioned.
More old
I am from the South.
Yeah.
That's correct. We like that.
Okay, and we're gonna end also with a 1950s movie of the week. There's No Business Like Show Business, 1954. We figured we're talking about the industry, and it was sort of relevant.
You
Marilyn
like that.
Monroe. Who else was in it?
I don't remember, Kim. 1954. I was not even in high school.
How old were you?
1954. I was 12 years old.
Yeah, but so you
I
could have
don't
seen
remember the movie from when I was 12 years old. I do remember I love the music.
Yes, it was good, and it was Donald O'Connor,
Right.
Ethel Merman.
Ethel Merman.
There's no
business like show business. Right, exactly.
Okay. Amazing. Another great episode of Excuse My Grandma. You guys follow Chelsea. Where should they catch your podcast and follow you on social?
At Chelsea Vaughn on Instagram and at Chelsea Vaughn _ on TikTok. And the podcast is called Vaughnerable, like my name, Chelsea Vaughn. And you can find that on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, everything.
Mm-hmm. And we just recorded Chelsea's podcast before this, so you can check out the episode where she interviews us pretty soon. I don't know when this comes out, if it'll be out yet, but within the week. And you can follow us, Excuse My Grandma, on social media. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.